Hey everybody, I'm Sam from the Academy. I'm gonna have to excuse they're doing some construction above me, and so there's gonna be some drilling sounds in the background. Unfortunately, living in a big city means that pretty much everywhere you go, whether it's your home or it's your office or pretty much anywhere in the city, there's always gonna be people drilling, no matter what day of the week it is, except for Sunday, and it's pretty horrible. So we've had like 3 offices so far, and in every single one of them there's always been constant construction. I just don't understand it. Who's buying these offices? Who's actually like moving into these places and constantly needing repair and fixtures? I just don't get it. So let's take a look at this is the NQ. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is pushing along, still making a solid accumulation at the top in shorts is my theory. We don't have Paula here yet who can give us some delta numbers, but this shape right here, it's really showing that there's some heavy accumulation going on here, and as it's trending downwards, this leads me to believe that it's shorts, just shorts getting filled. I'm really looking for another dump downwards is my thoughts. This is just a continuation pattern. We're having a consolidation here, and then there should be another dump down to the 6,500 area soon. It's just my plan for the next coming days, because there doesn't seem to be any upward pressure in price at the moment. So 79.70 is the most traded price. We're definitely going back there in the next day or two. And then after that, it's back down to 6,500. So 6,500 needs to be filled out. Look how much volume needs to be filled out in the past year. Let's go to, we'll just do all. Yeah, so there's this big gap right here, which needs to be filled between 65. This is all for, oops, let's do 5 year. So big gap here, which would show a lot of selling. This is all distribution right here. Distribution, distribution, distribution. And then this is solid accumulation went down here at the bottom because it's a very nice tight range, tight bottoms, and then it moves into this upper area where there's more accumulation that was happening here. And but this is solid distribution right here, all the way up to 14,000. So let's take a look at ETH. Go to my Adara. ETH, let's see, it's 5 year on ETH look like. It's too much. Okay, so let's take a, since 2017, that may even be too early. No, let's get rid of the early volume. So looking at this, ETH is really penned between the two tight volume areas, really between 2030 and 147. That was actually the lows the other day, is around 147, 149, which is indicative of it staying within this range. If we are going to see any more downside, like 90 is about the bottom that we'll hit. That's the bottom of the value area. Taking a look at the 1 year chart. Let me just get rid of these. Taking a look at the 1 year chart. Oh, we are above value right now. I would expect to come back to most traded price at 136 in the near future, and then move back into this most traded value area. For anybody who hasn't seen the stream yet, this yellow area represents 30% of all volume that occurred with the currency. And then this light blue area represents, plus the yellow, so light blue plus yellow represents 70%, and then everything outside of it is on a greater than 1 standard deviation away. So I would say that a good long would be to be patient and wait for 135, 140, and then see what happens from there. But really, like accumulation, I wouldn't start to do until we got back down into this 30% range, because there's really no point to be selling or even buying when you're so far above value. And same thing for XRP. Looks terrible as usual. 1 year is very bad. So I wouldn't even touch it until it got back down to 23.5 cents. This was an easy short at 31 cents, right back up to most traded price, and then load up on shorts here and then immediately back down. We actually came down to make new all-time lows for the year, or not all-time, but new lows for the year. And I think Bitcoin Cash is going to be doing the same thing. So 1 year, right, so look at Bitcoin Cash, came back down, touched the 30% area, and it looks like it's probably going to move back in. So 130 for Bitcoin Cash, probably coming pretty soon. It's probably most likely. So in the next month or so, that's what I would be looking for. Oh man, Bitcoin Cash looks horrible. Horrible. So again, like we're in this like weird no trade area where it's not low enough for me to start allocating any capital. It's around 6,500, and it's not high enough to short. You know, if I like 9,000 would be nice to short, but I don't think we're getting there. Really, the time to short and to start to be working on your distribution would have been up here when we had this descending triangle. Let's take a look at a smaller time frame. So here's the 5-day. You can see the short selling is taking place heavily through here. We're the most traded price. So if you're able to short at around 83.90, that would have been a decent area. The first target that I have is 8,330, and then 7,750 after that. But really, testing the bottom of this volume area will probably be the most likely place to hit in the next few days. If it does come back to this 8,390 area, that's a very nice place to short, because you can see the decrease in volume as it gets higher. This is like very competitive up here. So a lot of shorts trying to get filled at the very moment. Let's take a look at the 1 month. Yeah, again, more shorts being filled. There's just no volume at these low levels. So I don't know. Well, it just doesn't look good, because here you had a very balanced. There's a lot of balance here. Still competitive up top, competitive down below, because there wasn't much, and then a lot of volume in this one little area. So we're seeing typically the same thing as was before, back in September, or early September and August. But it's really just a continuation of the distribution pattern. I don't want to make any speculation on lows. I just have a target in my head of where I would start scaling in, and that would be somewhere below, like at or below 6,500, because that's when it becomes more attractive. At least if you think that we'll hit 14,000 again, right? Because at 5,000, that's 3x. At 6,500, it's like a 2.5. And if we get all the way back down to 3,000, that's pretty good as well. So moving on to the news, there was some, could I make this? All right, so I'll just leave that. So there was some transcripts leaked of Mark Zuckerberg's leaked internal Facebook meetings. And the big headline that came out of it is on the potential breakup of Facebook. Mark said that I'm certainly more worried that someone is going to try to break up the company. And he goes on to say, so there might be a political movement where people are angry at the tech companies, or worried about concentration, or worried about different issues, and worried that they're not being handled well. That doesn't mean that even if there's anger, that you might have someone like Elizabeth Warren who thinks that the right answer is to break up the companies. I mean, if she gets elected president, then I would bet that we will have a legal challenge. And I would bet that we will win the challenge. And does that suck for us? Yeah. I mean, I don't want to have a major lawsuit against our own government. I mean, that's not the position you want to be in when you're no. I mean, it's like we care about our country and we want to work with our government to do good things. But look, at the end of the day, if someone's going to try and threaten something that is existential, you go to the mat and you fight. Those are strong words coming from Mark Zuckerberg against what is potentially the next Democratic candidate of the United States. So some of the other quotes in here, he talked about the Libra launch, and he said, and we have this bigger, or at least more exotic project around Libra, which is to try to stand up a new kind of digital money that can work globally and that will be stable. But it's a big idea, and it's a new type of system, especially to be implemented by big companies. We're not the only ones doing this. We've led that thinking and development on it so far, but the idea is to do this as an independent association, which is what we announced with about 27 other companies. So also some small snippets. TikTok is really the first consumer internet product built by one of the Chinese tech giants that is doing quite well around the world. And yeah.
He's trying to find you.
2 minutes. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So some reports on the content moderation stories. This is about that they have all these like outside contractors who have to watch all the violent videos and posts and moderate them. They're having mental breakdowns and things. And he says some of the reports I think are overdramatic. Funny. And lastly, this is, before last, so JP Morgan launches a new stablecoin with former JP Morgan, Intel, and Trust Token employees called USD Digital. And they're making it available to institutional partners. So it is a stable coin on ERC20 and is fully backed with US dollars. And will have accounting. Yeah, and it could launch more stable coins in the future. So the big thing about this, the USD Digital stablecoin, is that it plans to share its revenues with participating exchanges, wallet providers, and over-the-counter or OTC desks. We'll have to check into that with Adara. And lastly, so productive capital and crypto networks, but with Chris Berniski. So he talks about the different ways of connecting productive capital with investment capital. So he states, while investment capital can ultimately be converted into productive capital, the two are not synonymous, and value doesn't always make the leap from investment capital to productive capital. So minting models like Bitcoin represent initial capital flows that prioritize building out a robust supply side first, as value runs from protocol to supply siders to investors. So the protocol mints the native asset over time to the supply siders, who then make capital investments into the network. But the only way that the supply sider can earn the asset is providing the utility that the mechanism design demands. And then the network has utility when the first nodes comes online. From there, investors purchase the assets from supply siders that sell to cover capital and operating expenditures, placing investors second in line. On the opposite, there's the other model, which is that you have the protocol, which is then sold to investors who then sell to or distribute to supply siders. And instead of minting, investors first buy their way into the protocol in what represents a balance sheet swap between the investor and the network's treasury. Investors are prioritized and then must trust that the founders of the protocol will allocate that treasury to build out the network supply side. So there's issues with both in that the Bitcoin supply model might not work. There's many forks of Bitcoin and other projects which have tried to run a similar strategy which just have not gained any traction. And then on the opposite side, we have the issue when investment capital-driven networks fall flat when there's little supply side support, because no clear model was put in place to compensate them for their work. So there's too much money that goes into the project, and there's no one to actually use it. It has no utility and no chance of making the final leap to entice a demand side and complete the economy. So many teams in 2017 over-prioritized investment capital and still haven't put the measures in place to stimulate the conversion of that investment capital into productive capital. So good things to think about, especially when starting a new network and or even thinking about starting a crypto company. How do you prioritize both investors and the supply side dynamics of who's going to be buying and using your tokens, both for productive capital and investment capital? Well worth a read. You can get all of it in the link below. It'll all be there. I'm Sam from the Academy. We'll be back tomorrow with another daily update.